Adam, it's another freaking podcast.
The pit is in full force.
It is. We have a guest. You can't see him. We have an in-studio guest today. I'm corona-free. We're back together, but we have a guest. What's that?
Just keep talking.
Okay.
I'll fix it on the fly.
Oh my gosh!
I'll get it.
What is happening to the? What is happening?
Give
to
me
the
a minute.
Oh my!
Just give me a minute.
I'm
covering up me, okay? Just
George, welcome.
Welcome to the Final Descent freaking podcast.
Yeah. What? What?
I hit the wrong button, okay? There.
Oh my!
It's good. It's good. It's fine.
Did you see that? Did you watch that happen on the screen, George?
Yeah, I did. I watched it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, he watched
part
it.
Of it. I wasn't really sure.
No. It usually just goes. It, like he hits a button and it goes.
Away.
But that pretty much sums up how it's
That
gone
is the
this
morning.
You got here early too.
I got here early, and podcast didn't care.
No,
Podcast didn't care.
it didn't. We got a guest with us today in studio. This is my buddy George Moore. George, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us.
You bet. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be a part of the podcast with you guys.
Are you?
Yes,
George. Even after what
I
you've seen today.
I mean, I wanted to see the whole gamut of it, and it's been fun for the last 30 minutes to watch you guys walk around, be lost,
Panic.
Didn't know panic. I'm just so glad we had batteries and we had cords and all that other stuff. You guys did a good job.
Did we, George?
Yes, you did.
You know what,
George, you got to look behind the curtain today, and you get to see there ain't no magic.
That was our
There's
last
no magic. I can assure.
That was our last episode. We talked about being behind the curtain a little bit. So I've talked Adam into doing another podcast, and I tried for 2 years to get Adam to do this with me, to say we should do a podcast, and he was just like, "Oh, it's just another thing." Oh.
That story about the persistent widow in the Bible. Keep knocking on the door over and over. Eventually, just give in. Just go away. Yeah,
That's kind of what happened. But I talked him into it. You know what I want to talk him into next, George?
No, what's? I want to know.
Wedding videos.
it's not happening.
Oh,
There's a lot of money to be made in wedding videos.
There's not.
I think
And-
he doesn't like that.
I guarantee he doesn't like it,
No.
and he has fought against it. And but I'm going to talk him into it. That's my next thing. I just keep chipping.
Might take
You know.
another 2 years, but you could probably get it done.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we'll eventually
Yeah.
get there.
I'm not. No.
So what is it about the idea of? Because I mean, we have a video production company,
It's the most.
and there's been multiple people have come forward, and I mean thousands of dollars.
the most high pressure
Mm-hmm.
situation. You've got one shot.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot mess up.
Mm-hmm.
And the second reason, and the main reason, is wedding coordinators.
Okay. It just sounds to me like you're saying I can't handle the heat. Isn't that what you heard, George? Like
Well,
I can't handle the
think
heat.
I'm not exactly sure that's exactly how he said it, but he does not want to do it. I can assure you.
He does not want to do it. No.
You know what else, George?
Yes.
I am not going to do it.
Give me time. He said that about this podcast too.
In case your headphones aren't working, he said he's not going to do it.
You know, speaking
Not.
of headphones, George,
Yes.
you got the privilege today.
Oh, I feel privileged. I mean, I hope we're in color where everybody can see them because
You got
this-
the baby blues, baby.
The baby blues are here. Yes.
You got the baby
I got
blues.
the
We broke.
baby blues
I had to
on.
go find them. That was
Yeah.
the last thing
Yeah.
that I was realized where everybody sat down. I go, oh, I don't have headphones for George. So I had to go in and ask my 4-year-old son, Sterling, where's your headphones? And
Hey,
he
will
says,
you get off the iPad for a minute? And I need to take your headphones.
yeah, no, I said, where are your headphones? And you know, he knew right where they were. He goes, they're in the back of Mom's van.
Yeah, Dad, go get them from Mom.
And so I went and got the baby blues out of the van.
I love them.
Because we just got back from family vacation and went to Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg and all that. And I'm sitting in my office chair because
you couldn't take the heat. See what
Good
it
one,
did
Adam.
there, George?
Adam, you got a good gig there. I like that. Yes. He's forgot now why he's in the chair.
I have not forgotten why I'm in
Yes,
the chair.
trust me, he remembers.
Apparently, for some time now, I have had a herniated L5S1 in my lower back. And driving 15 hours in a vehicle made me realize that it happened. And when I got home, I got out of the van and I was like, I can barely walk. I went and laid down, my back completely locked up. And somebody rang the doorbell, and I tried to get up, and I fell on the floor, George. I couldn't get out of bed.
It's not funny that you fell on the floor. It's just
It is funny that he fell on the floor. A little bit.
I'm not even 40, George.
I understand.
I'm not even 40.
I know. I understand.
And I'm over here hurting, and then we're going to get into talk about hunting stuff, but you're tracking all over the world. Getting after it. And how old are you, George?
I'm 67 years old.
67 years old.
67.
And you're in better shape than I am.
Well, I got to admit, it's been the last 4 or 5 years that I got this way. And when you jump on a scale one day at the doctor's office and it shows the big 300, that's when you decide you're going to change.
Yeah.
And at that time, I got a personal trainer. I started working out 5 days a week, started eating correctly. I didn't go on a diet. Don't ever use the word diet. It's a change of life. And in 6 to 7 months, I'd lost 60 pounds. I've lost a total now of 70 pounds. So
wow, that's
at
incredible.
230 pounds, I think I can still get around at 67 years old.
You do, because you track all over the country, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about that in a minute. But for me, I was in the same boat. I said 3 bills, we both played football in college.
Yes, we did.
And 300 pounds as a defensive lineman in college is not that big of a deal. 300 pounds now is not so much fun. I'm going to use the word diet because me and Adam are on a diet. Okay. We started a diet. Adam is down,
25.
Awesome,
25 pounds in a month.
Awesome.
That's pretty good.
That's great.
And so I'm following suit, and so see if I can jump into that. And by the time we go on our elk hunt, hopefully I'll be down. Who knows?
Then maybe you can cheat one meal or something.
Maybe.
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Theoretically, I would love to be done with this by the end of this month. I may just stop eating completely.
You just done eating?
I'm ready to be done.
Well, so
you know what I miss?
What do you miss, buddy?
I miss glass of milk. Just a big old glass. I know that doesn't do nothing for you.
No, man. George, last year, my body, I think due to COVID,
right.
There's lots of layoffs, lots of things. My body had to lay off a department, and it laid off the lactose processing department in my body. Yeah, they fired them last year.
And it was
out of nowhere,
fire
George.
sale. All must go.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I've always had maybe a little twinge of a dairy, but nothing big.
Yeah.
Now, brother, you give me a glass of milk. Yeah. If there's anybody between me and a toilet, I'm running you over. You're getting run over. As I do the mall walk, trying to keep it all together. Here I come.
Get in there.
Yeah. It's bad.
It's a lot of dairy things for me though. Milk, ice cream. I love ice cream, and I haven't had any ice cream in a long time.
Well, so with my back deal, I couldn't get up. I had to go to the bathroom. I had to go pee, and I couldn't walk. I had to my wife come in. I have to lean on her to walk. It took me 5 minutes to get from the bed to the bathroom. Go to the chiropractor, X-rays. Hey, you've got this herniated disc, and he's like, I'm gonna try to pop you here. He couldn't pop any aspect of my back from the top, from my neck down. Nothing would pop because my muscles were just so cinched up. But he's like, hey, this weekend you have to just ice and stay off your feet. Yeah. And I said, I got some bad news, Doc. I got some bad news. Oh my screen was freaking out above us. I said, Doc, I got some bad news. I'm going to the Foo Fighters concert at the Zoo Amphitheater on Saturday. I don't care what you say. I'm going. I will drug myself enough that I can handle it. Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. Took enough. You get enough painkillers in you. Yeah. You can do it. Go. And I went to the Foo Fighters concert. They are one of my favorite old bands of all time, and so I went to the Foo Fighters concert. But actually, I feel a lot better. But still, I'm on the struggle bus a little bit with the back. Adam was so nice. He came. I had to replace the batteries in my pickup this week. He came because they're 70 pounds. Yeah. He came and replaced the batteries in my pickup. And guess what else? He mowed my lawn.
Isn't he a great guy?
Isn't that incredible?
He is amazing.
I charged him for it, though.
Oh, you did? Oh, I didn't. Yeah.
Well, that isn't surprised. Did you know that he charged me to help me build this office?
Well, somebody had to pay for it.
Well,
You
I
might
mean,
have been
you would
one.
think as a buddy that you would offer your time and your energy to it, not sending you a bill. Like, and not, I mean,
Maybe
Adam's
he discounted.
Adam's like a
maybe
$30 an hour guy
Maybe
too.
he discounted the bill though.
Well, that was probably so.
Yeah, probably.
You know,
50
normally it's
bucks an hour,
$50 an hour,
and
but
he
because
got you for $30.
because
Gave
I
you
know
the
you.
friend rate.
Yeah, friend rate.
Yeah, give me that friend rate.
I didn't really charge him to mow his yard.
No,
I
he
thought
didn't.
about it though, just to be funny,
Exactly.
just to garnish your next check or something.
When he came into the house after he got done mowing, I said, "Hey man, did you see that weed eater? Did you see what was hanging out there?"
Well, that's what's gonna get us to sending a bill now.
That's who knew where it was at.
I love it.
So George, we want to hop in, talk about you. I guess start off, just kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll go into talking about hunting stuff. But introduce yourself a little bit, and we'll go from there, buddy.
Guys, my name's George Moore. I've been an Edmond resident for almost 50 years. I've loved to hunt and fish all my life. I got in it when I was about 10 years old with my granddad. My dad never hunted or fished a day in his life. He was a highway patrolman, had another job. He just felt like that hunting wasn't his hobby, and it has been mine. I'm a diehard turkey hunter, a diehard elk and deer hunter, and I love to fish. But I think probably what intrigues me more than anything is the people that I meet when I'm out. And I've kind of surrounded myself with what I feel is good people. Good people, and I mean that
Until today.
until I met you and Adam, and then.
Yeah.
But anyway, so for the last 60 years, I've just loved to hunt, and I've been fortunate enough in the occupation that I had. I was in the oil and gas business for 42 years, to be able to travel and hunt almost every state in the United States for either turkey, deer, or elk, and I want to continue to do that. And I just sometime back I also scored deer. I was a Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young measurer for 10 years, and I loved it. It was awesome. The thing that got me was that it took up so much of my time.
Yeah.
I would, especially after the season was over, I'd get calls all the time, and my wife said, "Honey, you've been hunting all season. Can you kind of take a break from it?" And so I retired 3 years ago from scoring, and but I continue to hunt and love it, and I plan hunts. In fact, we've got one planned this year.
We're going together.
I'm excited.
We're gonna go. We're gonna elk hunt.
Yeah, but that's my life: hunting and fishing and being around good people, and so that's where I'm at.
All right. So you've killed some big deer.
Yes.
You have been blessed, man. What's for you? What's been your biggest
My biggest
buck?
deer was a deer that I killed here in the city limits of Edmond with a bow in 2010. It was a buck that I had watched the year before in 2009, and at that time I felt like he was about 150, 160 inch deer. He was a 6x6. The year that I shot him in 2010, he was a 7x9. Had some non-typical points, but he grossed 206 and 5/8, and he nets 191 and 7/8. So, and then I was fortunate enough 2 years ago on the same lease to shoot another buck that is a clean 7x7, and he grossed 189. So those are two of my largest archery bucks. Really, two of my largest bucks. I don't anymore. I don't hunt with a rifle very much. I usually only just bow hunt.
Right. Yeah. That's incredible. I actually, the first time I remember seeing the name George Moore is that buck was in the Daily Oklahoman.
Yes, it was. Yes.
And I remember reading that like in 2010 or whatever, 2011, whenever that article came out. And was that Godfrey did that article?
Yes, Godfrey did the article,
Yeah,
and
he's a good
and
dude.
we had named that buck. When you get a group of guys that's on your leash, you kind of see a good buck and you target that deer and you put a name to him. We had named that buck Most Wanted because he was the most wanted of any of us that wanted to shoot that deer. But anyway, and I was fortunate enough to shoot him in October of 18 and 2010, and it was a thrill of my life, the biggest buck I'd ever taken, and so yeah.
Unbelievable deer. I'll try to find a picture and throw it up
Okay.
on the screen here so people can see that deer, an impressive deer. And anyway, but like you said, we're doing a hunt.
Yes,
We are going to New Mexico when we are going to elk hunt, and I'm so excited about it. I've done elk hunts before. I've killed several cows, and then I've only killed one bull, and he's right there. And that was in Colorado, and I worked my tail off for that joker right there. And I remember getting our guide who, those guides, these elk guides, man, they're just built different.
They are.
They're built different,
They
especially
are.
them high country guides.
No.
My guide, I don't know how he looked at me, and my buddy Russell Hobbs went, and how he looked at us and said, we need to start walking at 2:30 in the morning to get to where we're going.
Yeah.
And that's what we did, and it was perfect. I mean, we walked into the bottom of that meadow, that park, right at timberline. We walked in as the sun came up. I mean, perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how he looked and said, all right, we're gonna walk for 3.5 hours, and this is what, that's what it ended up being.
Right.
But he knew. But we go and we get down to the bottom of this, we kind of step right into the edge of the timber, and he calls, and that joker bugles like 700 yards up the side of the mountain. And I had a rifle tag, and he says, there he is. And he says, we got to make 300-400 yards on him. And that joker turned, my guy, and he went straight up that mountain. I mean, like, just tick, like a mountain goat.
Yeah.
And I looked at Russell, and I said, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't go. I mean, I'm like there's at points where it's so steep, I was on all fours
Right.
going up,
Right.
over a pack. And I get up to him, and he's already got a rock picked out. He's got his jacket off. He's got it laid down. He was just lay prone right here. And I remember laying prone and I was about 330 yards from this bull, and 5x5. He's a herd bull, and we're looking at him, and he said, I said, man, what do you think? He's not a giant, but he's he's a solid bull, and he says that's what the Lord provided for us today. And that's hard to not pull the trigger with that. You know what I mean? He put the Jesus juke on me.
Yeah, exactly.
Juked you
He
hard.
put the Jesus juke on me.
Exactly.
You got to pull the
Juked you
trigger.
hard.
Yeah, you got to pull the trigger. So we're gonna do that at elk hunt. I'm so excited. That's coming up next month, and so we got to get this back. We got to get this back up in good shape. If not, Adam's gonna be doing all the carrying of the elk.
Adam,
I
I'm going to
would
need you
almost
to.
bet that Adam does most carrying anyway, but I'm just guessing.
Oh my gosh,
I like George.
man!
Yeah.
Okay.
I like George a lot.
I'm just guessing that. I mean, from what I've seen when we set this up today,
Well,
I'm pretty sure that you were still in your chair, but you did get up a while ago and have to move a truck or something. I think.
yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I had to do a little bit of something. If it's, I would say this: if it's, we both do like the physical aspect of things, like filling feeders or whatever. But like that's more my realm. Like the technical side of things. I mean, there's a lot of aspects of things I can do, but then there's a lot of aspects that I can't. And so I just you just got to know your role. We say this all the time on the podcast: stay in your lane.
Yeah.
You got to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
There's certain things that I can do, and there's certain things that I can't.
It's not my lane, George.
I was just wondering if is this a 6-lane road and you got like 5 lanes and he's got 1 lane? I mean, I'm not exactly like a turnpike or something. But anyway.
Wow. You know what? Like, it's true. Like, no, honestly, like that. I'm not even mad. Like, that is true.
He's on the service road.
I'm on the service road next to Adam.
Next to Adam.
Yeah. Going.
Yeah, going. I got you.
I'm speeding. It's 50. It's 75 where he's at, and it's 60 or 55 where I'm at. But I'm still going 75.
You're still there though.
On the
Yeah.
juice. He's on the juice.
I'm on the 2 lane.
But I was going to bring it back. Wedding videos ain't my lane.
Yeah.
This ain't my lane.
Apparently, there's
It's
good
not
money.
even on the service road.
It's not. He's not on the service road or nothing.
No.
You know what else isn't in his lane? But it didn't matter. Elk hunting.
Yes.
Speaking of elk hunting, this jack wagon.
I heard about it.
Get drawed.
I heard about it.
Yeah, got drawed in the Wichita Mountain. First time he ever put in.
Yeah.
Hold on. I got to get something.
Oh, my gosh. All right. We got a little Braggington.
Oh, no, I think we're going to see it.
Our ammunition sponsor here, Fort
Yes.
Scott Munitions.
Yeah.
They had to,
Well, they need a picture, photograph.
in
They
their
didn't need
catalog.
a picture. They needed a 2-page spread, George.
A 2-page. Look at this. Have you ever been on a 2-page spread like this? Look, this is Adam. Adam Carter, Final Descent Outdoors.
Yeah.
Look at 2-page. Look at this.
Yeah, hold it up.
Two-page,
Hold it
right?
up for the camera
Look
there.
at
Right, hold it to the middle.
2-page right there.
Yeah, I see it,
That's
George.
beautiful.
I see it,
That is
George.
really awesome. Adam. Congratulations, Adam. Yes. Yes.
Oh
Okay.
man.
Do you know, George, that I put that elk in the bed of my pickup and I drove it to one of our staffers, Johnny Maxwell's house over at Duncan, because he killed it at Lawton. So hung it up with a tractor.
Yeah.
And caped that joker down, got him all before Adam went and took a shower, and so we were about 3/4 of the way done when he got it there. You know how much elk meat I've gotten for doing all that?
He probably gave you half of it.
Not an ounce.
You didn't even get a piece of jerky.
I ain't got a piece of jerky.
Adam, you need to give him
Not
some jerky.
I have
Give him
not
at least
gotten
give
even
some
half a
jerky.
pound. He tried to say, he's like, I brought some. It's in your. No, you didn't. He's even argued with me that he gave me some.
I'm
no,
still pretty sure.
it's not true. I've never gotten any. None.
Well,
So
Still pretty sure.
that is pretty cool, though.
that is awesome.
He
that's cool.
he had killed one. Had you killed a deer yet?
No. The deer is after this.
Right. He hadn't even killed a deer when he went on this hunt. He's killed one pig.
And
then
you're
he went
telling
and did-
me this was the first time that he applied for the elk hunt?
First time he applied for the elk. How many years have you put it? Because you haven't drawn either.
For the elk hunt, you can put in when you're 18. I'm 67. I've put in every year since I was 18 and never got drawn for the elk hunt, if that means anything. Yes.
Let that sink in, Adam. Don't you kind of? Does that make you feel like a little bit of a piece of crap?
No.
Okay, I was just checking.
No, not at all.
I mean, to go, man, my tag should have been George's. You know what? Hey, this is what's frustrating, George. You know, when he did that, you know how many people no-showed for that bull tag?
5 people no-showed for bull tags.
See, that's, yeah.
They only
that's-
draw 15.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
just, it's not a good
And
deal.
5 people did not show up for a once-in-a-lifetime. And here me and you are.
No, they could have called us. We would have been.
I'd have been, if you'd have called me and said, hey, Brad,
Yeah, I'd have dropped everything I had, and I'd
I'd have been holding a baby and I'd have dropped
exactly. Yeah. Wow.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could have been holding a 2-month-old child. I'd have dropped it and ran to my
Ran
pickup.
to the pickup to
You know
go
what I
to the
mean?
hunt.
I mean,
Gotcha.
their bones haven't formed all the way hard yet.
They're
you know what I
mostly
mean?
cartilage.
Mostly cartilage at that
Cartilage,
point. At
yeah,
that age, they'd have
exactly.
been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'd have dropped a baby and ran.
And ran for it.
I'd have tripped my grandma, made her get out of the way to get, and I'd have been there.
Does
so I'll
that
be
make
there.
you feel bad, Adam?
No.
Okay.
No.
He didn't have any sympathy
doesn't-
for us
he
over this.
doesn't-
But that is really cool that
That
Fort
is
Scott
awesome.
did throw him in there. And
It was cool. I didn't know they were going to do that, but I've got once we get it back from D, I've got a book that's just like that one that I'm going to frame up
when he
and
gets
put
it
it
when
with
he
it.
gets it back from the taxidermist, yeah, Bailey's Outdoor Shop down there in Ada is our taxidermist, and so when he gets it back, he's gonna have that spread deal
Spread put
underneath
out
it.
there.
Yeah,
That's
isn't that
It'll be
cool?
cool. It'll be a
That's
cool
that'd be
little
really cool.
mount.
Every
That's
time I
awesome.
walk in, I'll just have this
Yeah.
Little bitterness.
Just a little bit of a
Exactly.
bitter,
Exactly.
little bit of bitter angry.
He's the
going.
one that told me to do it.
I did. He didn't ever.
He
I
was
mean,
the
he
one
didn't
who
even
told
know.
me.
He didn't even know about it. Like putting him for the draw. He was
I'm
like,
not a
well,
big. I've never been a big game hunter.
He's
Just
done a
been
bunch of bird hunting.
bird hunting and fishing.
Well, you're hooked now.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun now.
It is a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just did a hunt in. Adam had his first archery kill not very long ago too.
Yeah.
Pig.
We were pig. Yeah,
Pig
we
hunting.
went down to Houston and hunted with Hog Wild Adventures, and had a crossbow. They had a crossbow there.
They
Adam
were like,
here.
"Why don't you do it?" And I went, "Okay,
Yeah.
And so
Okay, I'll do it.
he drew down, man.
That's awesome.
Shot a pig.
it's fun."
He's kind of spined it, hit a little high.
Yeah.
I mean, it just falls
Just-
down and it does this. Just-
That was-
that was it. Like you could hear the air leaving. It couldn't get any more air back into the lung.
That's
It's
a
just-
squealing.
and then that was it. It was
That's
all over.
great.
So that
was
was
good.
That was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
But not only like we talked about the whitetail aspect of things, and then man, you have a passion for elk and turkeys, which I haven't hunted elk just a ton, but I've always, especially during the rut. I mean, when they're bugling, I mean, everybody says that an elk is just an 800-pound turkey.
I'll tell you this, and I love turkey hunting. I shot my first Grand Slam when I was 60 years old, and I've got a Grand Slam every year since. But the thing that I love about elk hunting in September in New Mexico it's just like shooting are calling in a 800-pound gobbler.
Yeah.
Because when they are bugling and they're coming, they're on a string and they're coming to you, and that bugle will make the hair stand up on your neck. I promise you. It's exciting.
I mean, that bull that I killed that's right here, that was just the most unbelievable part of it. I mean, like you said, it's just your hair stands up when they bugle, and to be there and just how incredible of an animal they are.
It's amazing. The first year that I've hunted this same ranch for 15 years. The first year that I went there, I took my son and a guy I work with, and we were rifle hunting. We didn't get in for the early season for when they were bugling. Now, we did have some bulls bugling, but anyway, I killed one with a rifle. And the guy that took us, he said, George, you need to really put in for archery. He said, if you can come out here for archery, he said, it's all the difference in the world. So for the last 14 years, all I've ever done is taken a bow. And the closest that I've shot a bull was 7 yards.
Oh, my gosh.
And we called him.
Can you imagine, Adam?
Did you jump on him and shoot him from the top?
We called him in. He was
stabbed him with. I didn't shoot him with a bow. I just took the
stabbed
arrow
him
and
with the
stabbed
arrow.
him
Yeah,
with
you
it.
just killed him with the arrow.
He was in a waller, and he was just throwing mud and water everywhere. We watched him from about 400 or 500 yards off, and my guide started cow calling, and then he'd hit a bugle every once in a while, and this bull got up out of that waller and came to us on a beeline, and at 34 yards, the guide said, hey, he's 34 yards. Well, he was facing me. There's no way I was going to take a shot. And I thought, if he'll get to me just a little bit closer and he can turn broadside. Well, at 7 yards, he finally turned broadside, and I stuck him in the back shoulder, and he didn't go 40 yards.
Oh,
and
man.
So it was truly exciting, but that's probably the closest that I've ever killed a bull. But it's just the memories of hearing those bugles and watching those majestic animals, and as big as they are, how they can get through the timber and the brush.
Oh, I know.
It's unreal.
I remember as a kid, the first big bull elk that I ever saw was in Colorado. We were fishing. I was fishing with my uncle, and we were around South Fork, Beaver Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in the evenings we drove up the side of this mountain, and this bull come running down off the side of the mountain, and he crossed in front of us on the road, full run, and he ran down into the timber. And I remember pulling up to where he went in, and I'm going, how did he do that? Like, the trees are like every 2.5 foot there's a tree, and I mean, he never, he's just doing this, running, and how they're just an incredible.
They're amazing.
They're an unbelievable animal. And then you mule deer. I mean, you go to Nebraska.
Yes,
every year. I feel like I hunt for a living, and I feel like I should just follow George Moore around. Well, I've jokingly said that. I just want to go where you're going, because your mule. You've killed some great mule deer the last couple of years.
I've got a place in Nebraska that I go, and it's kind of in the sand hills next to the river. There's a few whitetails there, but mostly mule deer. And I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago, the first big muley that I killed there. And this farmer had circular irrigated cornfields, and the deer would come out of the sand hills into his corn, and he had cultivated or harvested all of his corn, but they'd still come into these fields. And and I'm talking about herds of mule deer. I'm talking about 50, 60, 100 mule deer. And I know the first time I was with this farmer, he was my guide, and I saw 2 or 3 bucks that I thought would score 160, 170. And he said, "You're not going to shoot one of those, are you?" And I said, "Well, which one do you want me to shoot?" He goes, "Oh, we got bigger bucks than that." So the biggest mule deer I've ever killed scores right at 200. But most every mule deer that we get up there are in the 170 plus class.
Right, yeah.
And it's just a great hunt. This guy has 10,000 acres, and we don't see any farmers. We don't see any hunters. And but yeah, it's been fabulous. Now, I mentioned earlier that I love to bow hunt. I got to admit, I've never killed a mule deer with my bow yet, because the way it's situated there. But I use my rifle when I'm mule deer hunting, and I I just love it.
You
It's great.
just like to shoot stuff.
I just like shoot stuff.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And speaking of bow hunting, I turned you on to Thorn Broadheads.
You did. Let me tell you.
I've turned you on to the Thorn Broadhead. I remember I gave you a pack,
Oh,
said,
it's
hey, try
unreal.
these out. George is a killer,
It's unreal.
and you fell in love.
I'll tell you what. I guess it's been 3 years ago, whenever
Yeah.
you first gave me my first package, and if you remember at that time, I said I love this expandable head, but I would like to have a fixed head on some of the areas that I go, and they came out with the Crown, and I don't know, guys. To me, it's the most deadly broadhead. It's the most accurate broadhead that I've ever shot, and I've shot, like I say, I've been bow hunting since I was 14, so I've shot a lot of different broadheads, but the Crown to me is the ultimate in the broadhead. It makes a hole, it cuts, it's a good bleeder, and it's so accurate. So
That's what the thing. I mean, because it looks so different.
yes,
People ask a lot of questions about it, like how can it be accurate?
right.
Well, on that hunt we did where Adam killed the pig, we were with PSCs, one of the guys that worked there, Cade, and that dude could shoot a bow. I mean, he works for a bow company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he can straight up sling an arrow.
Right.
And we had a pig at 81 yards,
Yeah.
and
81.
he had a Crown. He drew back. I mean, pump station.
Smoked him.
Smoked her with,
Yeah.
Smoked this
Yeah.
pig. And the accuracy, when, that's, it's the blades in it are helix stacked, so it's designed to just be able to rotate with that arrow, even though it's got all those blades on it.
Right.
It's a wicked looking,
Right. It is
broadhead.
a wicked looking broadhead.
and it's only an inch cut.
Yeah.
And people see that and be like, oh, why would you only want an inch cut?
Right.
It leaves a hole like a shotgun slug
It does.
because it's got all them blades stacked in there, and as it goes, and it just opens up wound channels, and it's one of those things where like you're not going to get some fat or some muscle tissue that's
No.
going to be able to clog that hole. I mean, them jokers bleed.
Brad, let me tell you a story that last year when I elk hunted where you and I are going, at that time they had two other hunters and they had both killed out. So the two guides, they just wanted to go with me. One of them wanted a video and the other one just wanted to be there. And so we had two bulls coming into a meadow, and one of the bull I ended up shooting scored 370, but the other bull came in and the guide said, how far are you confident to shoot? I said, I can shoot 60 or 70 yards with accuracy with this Thorn Broadhead. And he said, well, he's 62 yards if you want to try a shot at him. And he was broadside, perfectly broadside. I pulled back, 60-yard pin just a little bit high in the shoulder, shot him. I had a complete pass-through with that broadhead. Now, let me tell you, of the 14 bulls that I've killed in New Mexico, only 2 other times have ever had a pass-through with
That's
a broadhead.
incredible.
And that Crown went through him, and like you say, cut a hole. It looked like someone had shot him with a shotgun slug.
Yeah, that's what it does.
That bull did not go more than 40 yards, and he expired. He was gone. So even the guides, I had 3 extra broadheads on me. One of the guys was going to go on a cows hunt, cows, however you pronounce that animal, that deer. But anyway, I said, hey, I want you to take this with you, take these 3 broadheads and use. And he couldn't wait to send me a picture with his deer with that Thorn Broadhead. So they're great. I love them. Continue to shoot them, and I don't know how they can improve on that broadhead, but they probably will one day.
The Crown, which was their only fixed blade. I mean, they were an expandable,
Right.
Brand. I mean, they made, these hidden blade technology, and they had the OG, which is an inch and 3/4 cut, inch and three quarter cut,
yeah.
and then they came out with the Rift, which is
Right.
a 2.2 inch cut, big old, sucker. And which are devastating. Like we've shown on the show. I mean, matter of fact, when we tested it, they brought it to Oklahoma. The Thorn guys always come and hunt with us, and they brought the Rift to test. And I was sitting with Andy Buchanan, the owner, and he shot a doe out in western Oklahoma on a wheat field, and it's like a hatchet wound. I mean, it was like he hit her with a hatchet. I mean, he shot her perfect, right?
Yeah.
Right in the, right behind that front shoulder. And it left it's just this hole. It's just like this big.
Yeah.
And she's running. He basically took the front end out. She's just plowing, running, just spewing. Spewing blood.
Yeah.
Wait, Pursuit Channel.
Mm-hmm.
I jokingly said, I don't know if we can show that on TV.
Yeah.
The Pursuit Channel
Legitimately.
came to us and said, hey, man, Like you can't show her her running the amount of time that you did. We got to cut it up. Can we cut back to the blind again and then go back to her so it's not, because she ran. I think she didn't run 50 yards, but it took her like 13 seconds to do it because
she lost all the blood that was in her body.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so she's just spewing, and they said that's too graphic.
Yeah,
they said it was too
amazing.
Graphic. So it is. Their expandables are incredible, but the crown is just different. It's
awesome.
It's just it's just different. So shout out to the old Andy Buchanan,
Betcha.
Thorn Broadhead guys. They really have hit a home run with it, and they've got a new broadhead. We ain't gonna talk a lot about it. They got a new broadhead coming out for 2022 that they're really, 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 really excited about. So anyway, so George, outside of hunting, outside of all that, I've enjoyed getting to know you. But one of the things that was also been a connection for us is really been a faith aspect.
Yes.
I know that's something that's important to you, and you have been, a supporter of our ministry.
Yes.
Our banquet, coming and bringing folks and all that stuff, which is awesome. And supporting what we do is, our goal is to reach the good old boy, with the gospel through the common ground of hunting. But share a little bit about talk about just the faith aspect for you, and your involvement in your local church and some of that stuff.
My faith aspect was this: that I was raised with two other brothers at home, and my dad, as I say, was a highway patrolman. He wasn't home very much on Sundays, so when my brothers and I got to go to church, it was usually, like a lot of people at that age, it was Christmas, Easter, those type of times. When I got out of college, married my high school sweetheart.
You guys just had an anniversary too, right?
We did. We've been married 48 years.
That's
this year.
awesome,
Yeah,
buddy.
it's
Congratulations.
awesome. Yeah. But anyway, I'd married my high school sweetheart, and one thing, she was raised in a Christian-based family, and she said, "Hon, we're going to go to church, and we're going to go every Sunday. And we are not only going to go, we are going to help people." And so I got to give a lot of that credit to my wife. She's been a rock for me. And my kids, I've got a son and daughter, both of them live here in Edmond, and both go to different churches than we go to. But we love to be a part of the church, not only to go, but also to serve. As I mentioned earlier, I said I like to be around good people. And when I'm saying good people, it's not that I like to be around people that don't drink or cuss or do things like that. I just want to be around good people. And even if I'm around people who are partaking in that, I try and show them my Christian values. And I think at the end of the trip or the end of the day, they understand what kind of person that I am. When I first met you, Brad, it was at church. I talked to a guy, and he said, "You know a guy named Brad Clay?" And I said, "Yeah, I know that name." And I said, "He's got a TV show." He said, "Yeah, I remember calling you, Brad. I called you." I said, "Brad," I said, "my name's George Moore." And you said, "Yeah, I know who you are." And I said, "I want to go to lunch with you."
Yeah.
And so we went to lunch, and we talked about hunting, but we also talked about God, and we talked about Christianity, and we talked about faith, and we talked about all kinds of different things. And so for me today, when I go hunt with a new person or a new group or something, I don't try and just force it down on them, but I kind of just, they understand that I'm a Christian, and they understand that when I'm talking about God, I'm talking about how peaceful it is in the wild, and that God gave us this chance to do all these things that we're doing. And so I owe everything to Jesus Christ and God. And like I say, my wife was a big part of that, and but it means the world to me, and it means the world to my kids, it means the world to my grandkids, and they're the same way. And so I like to serve in my church any way that I can. In fact, there's a lot of times, and it's kind of strange, but if I've got a hunting trip planned, and sometimes it goes into Sunday, if I don't have to be there hunting, I'm going to be home to go to church on Sunday. Now, we have life groups in the church that I'm at, which is basically a Bible study, and I've led a couple of life groups, and we're fixing to start a new one. So, but I like to be around Christian-based people, and I do. It's kind of funny because our church, we have a saying there. We do anything short of sin to have people come to Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do. So,
Yeah. You know, that is you're talking about being around people. I always have to remind myself, number one, is that I can never be surprised when lost people act as such.
Right.
When people don't know the Lord and they act like they don't know the Lord,
Right.
I can't be surprised by that,
Right.
number one. But number two, the number one way to witness to somebody, I remember when my mom, I knew my mom didn't know the Lord. My mom had grown up in the Catholic Church, but she never had a personal relationship with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And after I became a Christian in high school, I knew that my mom didn't know the Lord. Like, I knew that. I could tell just by the fruits of her life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I began to I remember visiting with my youth pastor and saying, hey, I want to see my mom come to know the Lord. And, you know, I'd done mission trip training stuff before, so I knew the Roman road and Romans 3:23, Romans 5:8. I knew, a lot of scripture towards it. And I remember just sharing with my mom, and my mom thought, well, I'm good. She'd gone through confirmation as a Catholic. She had, done this stuff, but I mean, I could tell that there wasn't a relationship. And I remember my youth pastor telling me, the number one way to witness, Brad, is through the way you live your life.
Yeah.
That's the number one way to witness. Yeah. Your mom needs to see Jesus in you. And I wasn't perfect. I was a teenager. I mean, I wasn't perfect. Right. But I did the best I could. And after I became a Christian as a sophomore in high school, just kind of dove in and tried to do the best that I could and visit with my mom about spiritual things and trying to be a good kid and all that. And I remember being a sophomore in high school or a sophomore in college, and my mom called me on my own Nokia cell phone. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Playing Snake.
Yeah.
She interrupted my Snake game, called me. And my mom was bawling on the other end. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, something bad's happened. And all she could say was, I need Jesus.
Yeah.
And I remember, driving home and sitting down on the bed, led my mom to the Lord. I got to baptize my mom. But I say all that to say, like you're talking about, we as Christians, our job is to show people Christ through the way we live our life. Exactly. And the things that we say and the places we go and all those things, you know what I mean? And, that I love that's the motto is, everything but sinning we'll do to try to get people in the door.
Yes, exactly.
Anything short of sin, that's what we're going to try to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that imitate me as I imitate Christ verse always. What I have something I heard a long time ago is some lessons aren't taught, they're caught.
It's true.
And that's a great word.
And that's something that I always try to do with my son as well, and anybody that's around is, a lot of the things that we say aren't going to necessarily ring and stay with people. Some things will, but a lot of things that we'll do is what will stick with people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Adam, you're thinking about church stuff. Adam's been a non-denomer his whole life. Do a little drinking, some turpentine, dance around with some snakes a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good time.
That is not true. He's not the hills of North
Kakalaki.
North Kakalaki, where they do some of that crazy stuff. No, but Adam has moved to Wellston, built his house out there.
Right.
And you want to follow along and watch the whole building of his house, you can go to his YouTube channel, watch all that. But Adam is a First Baptist church attender now.
Awesome.
An FBCer.
He's an FBCer. Did you ever see that coming, Adam?
No. No. I did not. But, man, we love it there.
Being a Southern Baptist licensed and ordained minister, this is great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
To hear him.
Yeah. I mean, we love it out there. They're great people. That was the number one thing is that when we moved out there, we thought we were going to continue kind of coming back to the city to go to the church that we were with. And then we just realized that the community, being around the people that you're around and doing life with them and walking with them through what they're walking through is super important. And and it's been great. We love it there. It's still funny every time I pull in the parking lot. I'm always like, what is going on?
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. Because he's definitely thrown some Baptist jokes my way.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Giving me a hard
I
time.
throw the Baptist jokes at our pastor.
Yeah.
So it works out well.
It works out real good.
It does, man. It's great. So I appreciate that. Kind of skipping back over to your time scoring deer.
Yes.
And I already know the answer to this.
Yes.
What is the most memorable deer you've ever scored?
I can tell you just like it was yesterday. I was at the backwoods
As
hunting
every
and fishing
good
show.
story starts.
Oh, yeah. You know it's going to be
I
a
need
good
the
story.
music
Yeah.
that can
Yeah.
count like doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
I need this.
You need that. You need music. I was at the backwoods hunting and fishing show. I'm thinking this was about 4 years ago.
Can I just say that I saw it before you did? I was the first booth. I was at AA Outfitters. They're always at the Backwoods Show in Oklahoma City.
Right.
They're out of Wyoming.
Yes.
And my buddy Trey, I go up there and hunt antelope with him, done mule deer hunts with him. And he's the first booth when you walk in.
Right. So you saw it.
And that deer walked right by me.
I was sitting there, and you think about this, at the Wall of Fame at that show, there's usually about 8 or 9 game wardens, and their scores too. And then there was 2 of us who were independents, or that we didn't work, but we were volunteers.
And that was an incredible year period for the state of Oklahoma.
For the state of Oklahoma.
How
A lot
many
of
deer over 200 inches?
36. I scored 36 that grossed over 200 that year.
36 deer in the state of
Yeah,
Oklahoma
yeah.
that year that
and
scored
that
over
was just
200
me
inches.
that scored. There was a lot of other people that scored. But anyway, I was sitting at that booth, and I had just finished scoring a deer. Once I'd scored it, I filled all the paperwork out, kind of laid it off to the side. Well, the other 7 or 8 game wardens, they were busy scoring some other deer, and the other guy was scoring. And this guy comes carrying this. It was a European rack, but and all I can tell you is it looked like a dinosaur. I didn't know exactly what it was, but it had the mass that you couldn't believe. It was not very wide, but it had points everywhere. And he laid it.
But it was a mainframe.
It was a mainframe 6-pointer.
Right.
It's a 6x6, but with a lot of trash on it. He laid it on the table, and I looked at it for a little bit, and I said, this is just unreal.
I mean, my first question is like, is this grown in a high fence?
Well, and
because it's so. I mean,
it's such a freak, and
Right.
it's what basically they call it the freak of nature. That's the name of the deer is freak of nature. But it was a young boy named Brad Julian. He hadn't shown the deer to any. He had killed the deer during rifle season near Oklahoma City. And he hadn't shown the deer to anybody other than his cousin, I think, and a taxidermist, and that was it. He didn't. There was no pictures. There was no photographs.
yeah, this is out of nowhere. I mean, and that's the thing about
We're in
in
March.
today's time. Well, in
Yeah.
today's time, yeah, this is March.
Yeah, this is
But in
March.
today's time
Oh, yeah,
of
with-
social media
Yeah,
and all
it's-
this stuff, how do you hide?
I don't know how he hit it. In fact, it still surprised me. But anyway, he laid it on the table, and I look at it, and immediately I start looking. I say, he's just a 6x6. I mean, he's 3x3 is what he is. And
Yeah, it's
but
just
the
trash
mass, and the weight of the antlers and that skull ended up weighing with 12.5 pounds. That's what it weighed, and the mass was 12 inches at the base. I mean, it's just
Unbelievable.
It's bigger than a pop can. The main beams, even though it was a 3x3, the main beams were over 30 inches long. Now, people don't realize that when they even look at it today.
No, I wouldn't have known that.
There's
I
no
wouldn't
way
have thought
that
that.
thing's 30-inch beams, but it
Because
did.
he's not very wide. How
No,
wide
he's
was
not,
he?
Oh, I think he's like 12 or 13 inches inside spread.
Right.
Yeah,
and
he's
so
just-
you,
he's
then you
not-
think we got to go 30 inches.
30 inches
of main
out.
beam.
There was another
With
game
no
warden,
width.
another game warden, and he came down to me and he looked at it. He said, "George, I'm glad you're scoring this," but he said, "What do you think?" And I said, I don't know. I said, and I just asked him. We've scored so many deer, all of us that have done this. He said, "I think that deer's going to go over 200 inches." I said, "He's just a 6x6, or he's just a 3x3." He said, "Yeah, but look at the mass and everything else." And so, sure enough, we ended up scoring him, and I was the main scorer, but I had another guy hold the antlers for me and take the measurements down. But that deer grossed 213 inches. It's
as
Brad
a
Julian Buck,
mainframe 6
the
point.
Brad Julian Buck. It basically is the world records, even though he's non-typical because of his trash on him. He's the world record 6-point buck. The young boy that shot him really didn't know what he had got. He had felt like that there was something to it, but everybody started wanting to make stories about it and write stories and all this other stuff. And I remember Gordon Whittington with North American Whitetail Magazine. Gordon called me. We're good friends. And he said, George, he said, this Julian Buck, he said, I want to do a story on it. But he said, can you get me some good field photos of when this young man shot this deer? And I said, yeah. I said, I'll talk to him. So I asked Brad. I said, Brad, have you got any good field photos? And I hate to say this, guys, but he had one picture of that buck laying in front of his trailer house, and it was absolutely the worst photograph I'd ever seen. So we couldn't use it in a story. But anyway, the people with Antlers by Klaus, which are replica makers up north, they had contacted me and wanted to get in contact with him and said, hey, we want to talk to him about doing a replica. And I go to Brad, and I'm explaining the Oklahoma laws to him that, Brad, you cannot sell that rack. You cannot sell those antlers. People like Cabela's and Bass Pro, they want those for trophies, but you can't do that in the state of Oklahoma. But what you can do is you can make a replica out of those antlers. And I said, maybe you can make a royalty deal with Klaus and do that. And he did. He made a deal with Klaus. And he gets a percentage of every antler they sold. The first year that they had those antlers in production, they had sold over 250 copies of those antlers.
Wow.
So
they made some good money then. Maybe
he made some money.
That's great.
But it is still, of all, I don't know how many, I've scored over 1,000 deer. He's still the most unique one that I'll remember the rest of my life.
Like I said, I remember when the kid walked in carrying, because he's not a big guy.
No, he wasn't.
Little bitty guy. And you're carrying this, like you said, 12 pounds of bone. Yeah. And he's carrying it into the Backwood show. Yeah. And I mean, I remember, because Trey was the first, because I'm looking at Trey's booth, so Trey's looking at the door. Mm-hmm. And the kid walks in, and I remember Trey going, like he just drops his jaw. You know, he's just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And I turn, and it's about where, this barrel is. Yeah. And I turn and look at it, and I'm thinking, I've never in my life seen anything like. Now, had other people got trail camera pictures of it, or was he?
No, that was another case. In fact, after that happened, after that we got it scored, the Oklahoma County Game Warden had called me and said, hey, I'm going to interview this hunter. We want to make sure that everything he did was legit. And so I gave him his phone number and I gave him his address. The game warden went and interviewed him. And they had mentioned to Brad, they said, Brad, now there's some other people around this area that say they have game cam pictures of that buck. One of the pictures that they have, the guy says, is 5 miles from where you shot this buck. Are you sure that you shot this buck in your backyard?
Yeah.
And Brad looked at him like, what do you mean? Do you want me to lie and tell you I shot him somewhere else? And that's not what he was trying to get at. But anyway, so there was 3 or 4 other people that, and since then, since the story came out, I've had 3 or 4 other people, they've emailed me or texted me pictures of this same buck. Now, another story, and a lot of people don't realize this, that same game warden, the year prior to when Brad shot that buck, which I say, the guys, this is in Oklahoma City.
Right.
He had a buck that was about 3 streets south of where Brad shot his buck that looked a lot like the buck that Brad shot. And it had got run over by a car, and it was in velvet, and I've got photographs of the game warden holding this rack. And it looked like the same genetics. Then we got to thinking, is there a deer farm in the area that maybe some of these deer got out? But when we checked all the records, there's no deer farms at all within the area. So it was just a freak. they estimate the age of that buck to be, he was 7.5 years old.
Wow.
Is how old he was. So.
Wow. He really is. And we'll put up some pictures
Awesome.
of the old Julian Buck.
Julian
I mean,
Buck. Yep.
he's an unbelievable deer. Did you ever see that? Have you ever seen that, Adam?
I've
You
never seen
pictures?
him. No.
Unbelievable,
Yeah,
man.
he is
I mean, he is an absolute freak show.
Freak of nature.
He's an absolute freak of nature.
Yeah.
You know, just like being a redheaded Wyandotte Indian.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
It's
mean?
a rare thing.
Rare
It's
thing.
a pretty rare,
Freak of nature.
kind of a little bit of a freak,
Freak
of
of
nature.
nature.
Freak of nature. We just continue to learn more and more things about Adam all the time.
That's awesome.
Adam, we haven't learned a whole lot about you this episode.
We've learned that George is on my team.
Well, that is true. It's it's been a little
Difference in
all the flavors out there. You guys chose salty.
Salty.
Y'all went salty on me today.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all going.
Makes
Well,
for
when there's
good
three of you,
TV.
somebody's got to be the one that gets picked on.
Yeah,
So we figured that you're the ones we're picking
that's
on
fine.
today.
That's
So,
fine. I do a lot of picking.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so it's
It's a love language, really.
it really is a lovely. You can't and this is in hunting camp or anywhere with a bunch of guys. Like you just can't be sensitive.
No.
You can't be
You
sensitive.
can't take everything so seriously.
No, you
Right.
can't.
We
No.
joke around with one another. Like
No.
when all those thorn guys come out, there's like 5 of them that come out and hunt. We are horrible to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Horrible.
Horrible.
Oh,
But it's
I mean,
a blast.
but it's a blast. Yeah, it's so much fun.
It's a
But,
blast.
I mean, that's what's fun about hunting camaraderie is that, you know, your buddies, you can be
Oh, yeah.
a total jerk and they'll not,
Yeah.
you know, hopefully not
Yeah.
hold it over your head forever.
If they do, then it makes me mad if somebody does that because they're like, you really think that I'm being serious? Like,
yeah, no, exactly.
Like you really think I'm that cruel of a
Cruel.
person?
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause we,
No, this is laced with sarcasm.
oh, man. And I'm bad at it. Like, I don't say I'm good at it, but in a bad way. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like,
It does.
I dish out heavy.
Yeah, but if
Heavy,
you dish
heavy.
it out, you know what you got to be able to do?
Yeah.
You got to be able to take
That's right. Here I am, you know. I
it. Be
mean,
able to take it.
my back hurts, but my butt doesn't hurt because I'm not butt hurt today over you
got
guys
you.
picking on me. That's just
Awesome.
how it goes. I know, George, too, for you now as your grandkids
Oh, let me
have
tell you,
just
it's
gotten
awesome.
the bug.
It's awesome. I've only got one grandson. I've got 3 granddaughters. But my grandson, I started taking him seriously deer hunting when he was about 7. And Carter is 15 years old today. In fact, Carter's he's going to be a football player like his grandpa. Carter is 6'1", weighs 185 pounds. He's 15 years old, wears a size 13 shoe. And but I can remember every deer that Carter's taken with me since he was 7 years old, and he loves it. So 2 years ago, my granddaughters, who now are 13, 12, and 9, the middle one and the youngest one, they decided they wanted to go deer hunting. So
Yeah.
I took both of them last year for the first time, and both girls got their first bucks. And even it was funny that you mentioned that because yesterday they stayed with us at our house. And Macy, which is the youngest granddaughter, she said, "Now, Papa, this year I want to get a bigger buck. I want to get an 8
Oh, yeah.
or better."
All
so,
right.
You know, so she's already
Standards on the rise. There's pressure. There's some pressure on you now,
Yeah,
George.
exactly. So anyway, but I've only got one granddaughter, and she's not into hunting yet. But they all like to hunt. They love to fish, and but like I say, Carter's my buddy because he's my own grandson. But in fact, next year, not you and I are going this year. Next year, I told Carter for his 16th birthday, I'm going to take him on his first elk hunt. So we'll go to Mexico.
Man.
He'll be able to elk hunt with me.
Stop it.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
incredible. Hey, have you? Because and it's what's nice probably about taking your grandkids and your kids in comparison to your kids. But I don't know if you've ever been in a situation because I have a couple times where I've been hunting with my kids, and an extraordinary animal steps out, and you've had a little bit of a moment of going, "Do I take the gun?"
And
You know what I mean? Like, there's an example of that in here. That double-bearded Rio right there.
Yeah.
And you don't find a ton of
no,
double-bearded
you don't.
Rios.
No,
and those are
especially
both
good beards. Good
yeah,
beards.
both of them good beards. My son shot that bird.
Yeah.
Sitting in my lap.
Yeah.
All right. Matthias was probably 8 years old, maybe 9 when he shot that bird, and we'd worked that bird all day. He was in a wheat field with like 16, 17 hens, and I circled that wheat field every little patch of brush that I could get close to call to him.
Right.
I couldn't pull him away from them hens for nothing. But I knew where he'd roost at.
Yeah.
And so I got in between him and that roost, and there was a drainage ditch. It was wide open pasture, but I knew what he was going to do. And we went and sat in that drainage, and the gun rested on the ground.
Yeah.
And they were going to come over this hill to us. Here they come. I mean, my buddy Brant Hill's running camera. He's behind me. And Matthias is sitting in my lap. I've got, at the time, I had a Remington 870 Super Mag shotgun, 3.5-inch Magnum turkey load.
Right.
And I'm shouldering it, but he's in my lap. And so he's leaned over the gun,
Right.
but I'm shouldering it.
Right.
And it's coming, and here, and I got all these hens in front of us, and I know he's in the back, and then here comes that fan up over the top, and I don't know if they saw some movement or whatever, but they weren't spooked. They just started walking side us instead of coming straight to us. They started walking along the edge of the hill, which was perfect. And he turns, and he's like 35 yards, and I said, buddy, I'm gonna take the gun off safety, and you put that bead on his head, and you pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of following. I can tell he's on. I can't tell, if he. But I can. We're in the general vicinity.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I'm like, whenever you're ready, buddy. Let me tell you something. When you hold the shotgun, and it's a 3.5 Magnum shell, and you're holding it, it ain't as bad. When you're the one pulling the trigger,
Right.
but when you don't know it's coming and you're shouldering it, buddy, that rocked my world. That 870 punished me when he pulled the trigger. I mean, I was just like, shabow, and I was like, oh, but the bird goes to flopping.
Yeah.
And I said, go get him, go get him, go get him. And anyway, so awesome. But I'm not going to lie. There was a moment in time where I thought, I think that bird has a double beard. I've never killed a double-bearded turkey.
Well,
Never have in my life. I've killed a ton of turkeys,
yeah.
but most of them are Rios out in western Oklahoma. I've only
Exactly.
killed a handful of Easterns.
Eastern birds. Yeah.
And it seems like the Easterns are more likely to have.
They are. I think they'll do. In fact, it was funny. I killed a Merriam this year in New Mexico that had a double beard.
Wow.
And their beards are real. But you're right. The Rios don't seem to have the multiple beards like the Easterns do.
Yeah. So I haven't had that happen. And then my son killed a 21-inch wide 9-pointer. Never had him on camera. As a place that we always hunt. I've got camera there all the time.
Yeah.
And I never saw this buck. It was raining. He comes in. He's 21 inches wide. It's just a beautiful buck. And there was a moment where I thought, my son may not need to shoot this deer. This may need to be Dad's deer. But I overcame my selfishness and didn't make it happen.
Sacrificial of you.
It was, right? It was sacrificial of me. Anyway, George, man, thank you so much for coming on
Hey, you bet,
and
Brad.
being on the show
Brad
with
and
us
Adam,
today.
I've enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure. I love being part of your guys' world. I'm looking so forward to our elk hunt.
Me too,
in a
buddy.
month.
I can't wait to come back. Maybe we'll have to come back and talk about our elk hunt.
Yeah,
We could-
recap.
we
A
could
little recap
do that for
podcast
sure.
from the hunt.
Exactly.
But no, George, I appreciate you. I appreciate your faith. I appreciate your stance on that aspect of it and being a light in a dark world. And I appreciate your friendship, and I'm excited about hunting with you and doing this elk hunt. And maybe who knows? We'll see where else it all leads us.
I'm ready.
I'm ready too. Adam, where can people find you?
You can find me on all the things at Hurley Films, HearlyFilms. You can check us out on YouTube. Got a lot of things going on. We're building fence right now, and it's just a joy.
Man,
Just a joy getting that farm ready.
at least it's not hot outside.
At least it's not 101 every day.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
If somebody, you're a great social media follow as well. Instagram, what are you? It's Hunter
PhD.
Hunter PhD on
Yes.
Instagram. You can
Yes.
find George.
Yes.
Always great content, ton of hunting content. So I encourage you guys to go find George as well and give him a follow there. And then Final Descent Outdoors, you can visit our website, finaldescentoutdoors.com. Super professional, Adam.
It's time to eat.
Is that what it is?
Time to eat.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable. He's on this diet. He eats every 2.5 hours, and he sets an alarm, and it's going off. Yeah, to remind him he eats every 2.5 hours. These small meals. Anyway, finaldescentoutdoors.com. You can find us on Instagram at FD Outdoors. You can find us on Facebook, Final Descent Outdoors. Twitter as FD Outdoors, and you can also find us on TikTok, Brad Clay _ Final descent. Anyway, thanks guys for tuning in and watching. Episode 15 of the old podcast. Will there be a 16, Adam? There'll be a 16. I've talked him into it. Thanks for watching.